guys, welcome to Truth Talkin Thursday. This is Jim. I'm Jane, and little wound up today. He's wound up. I'm wound up, and I guess thinking about criticism, and in a huge social way, and in a more generalized way, I guess is what's running through my mind. So, you know, it's easy for us to look at others, whether it be politicians. Or whatever it is that we're interested in, whether we're parents or if our kid is into a certain sport, like maybe the facilitators or the organizers or groups, all those kind of things, events that are held. We criticize, but what do we do about it? And I think for me, I notice for my own self that a lot of these things come down to, what do you believe? And then what do you do about it? Because if you have a strong belief about something and you do nothing about it, you don't communicate, you don't take a stand for it, you kind of feel like you're automatically taking a stand against it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it's important for us to take a good look at ourselves and to ask ourselves some of those questions. Because, I've heard a lot of people criticize governments, especially, I guess. And there's part of me that kind of like to ask them, did you vote? And if you didn't vote, then why do you have an opinion?
Yeah, for sure.
And why didn't you vote?
Well, exactly. If you're out there wrapping your gums and stuff like that about this and that and the other thing and how horrible things are, then vote to change that.
Well, that's one thing that I really appreciate about you, Jim. Like, I feel like you're very passionate about the things that are important to you, and you're not afraid to speak up and to say what's on your mind and to make it clear what you stand for. And I think that I wish there was more people like that, because I think it's really important. I think I've always been one of those people that kind of just deal with their own little world and sometimes don't look past the end of my nose. And you know what? There's times when that's the way it has to be. Sometimes you got enough going on in your own life that that's all the energy you have, just to make your own life work. But on a larger note, we are all part of a community. We are all part of something a lot bigger than just what's in our own little circle.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And the thing is people get so busy now doing what that they're not paying attention to what's happening around them, or they don't seem to care because it's not as important as what they're busy doing. It's getting a little scary for me. I'm not gonna say it's not. It's and I really have some strong concerns about my little granddaughter, my own family, my son and my daughter.
What are your biggest concerns, Jim?
My biggest concerns are that we're not paying attention to the people out there who are really in a position to hurt us, and we don't seem to care much about that somehow.
And who are those people?
Well, if you look, and how can you not look at south of the border? And I really apologize. I'm not trying to. It's hard these days to not have some kind of political views, only because of the moron that's down there and the damage that man has done so much already, and what he's prepared to do. And nobody down there is there's no check and balance. There's no check and balance down there. Maybe a little bit now that with the midterm elections and all that in the States, and I don't claim to understand their political system. And
part of what's so scary about that is, if you consider history and the rulers that may be comparable, or don't even think comparison, just think of the rulers that made history for heinous crimes. Think about that for a minute. How did that start? And what do you know about that? And what are you seeing now?
Yeah. And the one thing that comes to my mind, as I was mentioning to you, is what's happening in Mississippi down there. Now, as a kid, I grew up in that whole Kennedy time when John F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy were in the power spots in the States, and thank goodness they were at the time. the way they handled the segregation problem in Alabama and you know, Mississippi and Georgia and those southern states, who seem to think that it's okay to own people as you would a car. The way they had to deal with it, and the National Guard and all that kind of stuff. There's some and those feelings, that is still running through that culture, still running through the citizenry down there.
Obviously.
And
what will that lead to?
Well, what has it already led to? I mean, if anybody cares about what happens in Mississippi, you should care. You should care. Not because we live in Mississippi, but whatever happens south happens north. And who's lined up now? Well, when you think about the folks that have gone, that are leaning to the far right here in this country, guy just got elected in Ontario, and the guy that just took over the PC party, and I'm not trying to cause grief here. I'm just pointing out the obvious. The obvious part of this is, and when you start thinking about the rights and freedoms that we would normally have and enjoy and experience, they're starting to slowly get worn away, especially south of us. The media is in shambles down there in a lot of cases. That happens there, it's going to happen here. We should be paying attention to what's going on down there. Not that we can do anything about it, but we need to take a look at what's going on down there, make sure that it doesn't happen up here.
But maybe I'm a dreamer, but to say we can't do anything about it.
Oh, we can. Change
always starts here.
Yes.
And I think that's, you know, yes, we're talking about a very huge, big social, something far bigger than little old me. But if I don't take responsibility for me, there's no way I can take a stand for what I believe in or even support something greater than myself.
Yeah.
It all starts here. And I think that's one of the very things that we're forgetting. These morals and the moral compass that used to be just standard is no more.
No, you're right. And that's where it begins. It begins with that erosion of moral standards and
work ethic. All of these things that I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot personally with having hired employees. I'm learning a lot how to deal with people on a different note too. And, you know, maybe I do have a pie in the sky ideal. But, you know, it takes you a while to sort through, you know, who's going to work with your team and to have the confidence to realize, okay, well, this is my vision. What I'm doing is my vision, my business. And so if somebody doesn't seem to fit in my team, then I'm not doing right by the team that I have if I continue on and just hope for the best.
Right. Yeah. You have to pay attention.
Exactly.
If we decide that we're gonna crawl into a hole someplace and let everybody else take care of our business, there has to be checks and balances, and there has to be people out there that are willing to stand up and say, no, that's not okay.
Yeah.
That is not okay. So you got to stop doing that. We have to take responsibility for what happens around us in terms of the world we live in.
I think what's most important is we are all part of something bigger. Yes, we have our own little worlds, we have our own responsibilities and obligations, but we are also part of something much bigger. What are we standing for? What do we think about it? What are our moral compass and standards? And what are we going to do about it?
Mm-hmm. What's the old saying? If you don't stand up for something, you'll sit down for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my concern. If we don't stand up,
or you've got to stand for something, or you'll fall for anything. Same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. Exactly. Don't leave it to somebody else to do your business. Don't leave it up to to somebody that you put an X beside on a ballot someplace and expect that they're going to take care of your business, your best interest. It won't happen. So don't do it.
That's great advice. Have a great week, everybody.
Thanks for stopping by.